Hey everybody, we're going to be talking about EA Sports, bringing commercials to video games because it just makes it that much more realistic.
Overrated, underrated. Fads.
Stay tuned.
You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day. Oh, yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bro Down Podcast. I'm Tim Fulton.
I'm Andy Smith.
And this is What Do You Got?
What do you got?
What Do You Got is a little segment where we each come to the table with a topic that the other guy doesn't know about. We spring it on each other and we chit-chat about it for a little bit, bro-ish style. And he's up first today. Andy, what do you got?
I have overrated, underrated. Fads.
Do you have specifics? Or are you
I'm
just talking
just
about
saying,
in general?
I was thinking in general, growing up, what fads were like totally in, and then they were fucking gone. And if you do it now, it's social suicide.
I think most fads.
Jorts.
I still have jorts.
No.
Thank you very much.
Kevin Smith jorts.
Okay, those can pass. I never had like the big baggy jorts. I had like the common.
It's like somebody was
cut.
gonna make jeans, but they only had the template for shorts, so they just kept making them longer. They were horrific.
They were pretty bad, dude.
Yeah.
I remember. I think most fads are like songs, in my opinion. We overplay them over and over. We find something we like. We hit repeat for 3 days straight, and afterwards we're like, it's not that good.
I agree, but I disagree at the same time.
And that's because you're fucking stupid.
I am stupid, but I'm going to make a good point here.
Go for it.
The difference between a song and a fad is that the song can be good at the time, and then you can listen to it years later, and you still are like, I remember when that was cool.
That's true.
But when you look back on a fad, especially like a clothing fad, you're like, I can't believe I wore giant shorts.
I can't believe
To
about
school.
the jorts. I can't believe about the jorts.
To school. I frosted my hair.
I was about to make that example. Do you remember the
I never
frosted
did that.
tips? I never did. I was this close. Do you know what stopped me? My cowlick. Because it would never look right. It would never look right. I can't have a frosted tip if I have a giant goddamn wave in the front of my head.
Frosted tips.
Thank you, cowlick.
What other fashion fads were there?
There was a ton. I remember we're in our 30s, so we're talking about like late 90s, early 2000s type stuff.
Yeah.
I remember girls had bell-bottom jeans for a while. They came back in the 90s from the 70s. This is going to be the fucking gayest thing in me ever, this entire conversation. I think those are underrated.
Bell bottoms?
Bell-bottom jeans. I think those are fucking tight as shit.
They're better than a lot of other things.
Yeah.
I will say that. They're better than a lot of other things. They're not for everybody.
They're better than the iced tips.
Yes. What about those jackets from like the 90s / early 2000s that were like, they're one color and they were like leather, or they look like something that the guy from Honey, I Shrunk the Kid blew up from a Barbie doll.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know what the names of those are.
I don't know, but everything looked like it came out of a toy package. Like the Spice Girl look.
Yeah. What about you talked about the jorts. What about the denim everything? Everything. I remember there was a picture of Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake's. I think they were at like the VMAs or something like that. Oh, that
was so gross.
And both of them.
It was even more gross because they had so much denim because it was baggy. Like if it was cut to fit, it wouldn't have been as bad, but there was like 9 people's worth of denim.
If Andre the Giant there was wearing jeans, it would have be considered camouflage.
Yeah.
They could have hidden each on one leg.
It was, yeah, not good. What about, like, fads of people used to do shit, like remember, like, everyone used to have shit hanging on the inside of their car off their rearview mirror?
I remember, like, there was, like, the bull testicles for a while.
They had the dice, the bull nuts.
Yeah.
All that shit. But what other fads?
You know what's weird?
What?
Because we're becoming so social media oriented, I feel like fads are going away from like clothing and whatnot and more towards like what can I do to get attention?
Yes.
So like instead of being like, oh, I wear jorts, it's like, oh, I fall backwards with gallons of milk in the store while someone videotapes me. And they go so fast. Fads are like 2 weeks.
I'm going to dance the song to Wet Ass Pussy.
Dude.
In front of my dad. And that video is going to live on the internet forever.
Forever.
How many?
These things don't go away. Teach your children the internet doesn't go away.
You know what, though?
Snapchat is forever, people.
I do like the people that make no bones about what they do or who they are because you can't be mad at them.
You can't.
But if you're going to make a video of you, like, doing a backflip and, like, splitting on the ground and then twerking, you can't be mad 10 years later when you're like, I don't want that video out there.
Dude, you know what?
Hey, sorry. We told you the rules.
In like 20 years, people are going to be running from Congress. And they're going to be like, Beck, and
there's not going to be. How are you going to do that?
no one is going to be able to.
They're busting people now.
I know.
From, like, shit they did in the 70s.
I know.
You know how easy it was to rob a bank in the 70s? You know how easy it was to just, like, shoot someone on the street and, like, good chance you're going to get away with it. So fucking easy.
It took 23andMe to catch the Garden State Killer.
It's what?
23andMe?
Yeah.
That's how the Golden State Killer? Golden State Killer got caught.
Yeah.
See,
that's what I'm saying.
His niece, it wasn't even him, his niece gave blood. And they gave it to the FBI for some reason. And they were like, oh, this is a relative of the Garden State Killer. Why do I keep saying that?
I don't know, because you're in Jersey and everything's about you all the time.
Don't tell people where I live. I'm hidden. I'm off the grid, he said on YouTube and Anchor and all those podcast sites.
Yeah, you could get away with so much shit back in the day. Nowadays you can't. So how are you going to elect a governor when that's going to be really annoying.
How do you elect a governor who wears jorts except the most annoying version?
What do you think is worse? Wearing jorts trying to run for office, or doing the Wet Ass Pussy by Cardi B song?
Jorts. No. What's worse? Wet Ass Pussy. By a landslide.
Dude, you really hate jorts and you wear jean shorts.
Fuck jorts. Jorts are mine. I have the last pair. No. One is a miscalculation on fashion.
Let me ask you a question.
The other one is an action.
What if everyone running has a WAP video?
Don't get me into politics, dude.
What if everyone running has one though?
Dude,
you know how many? Do you know how many girls under the age of 19 don't have a video of them doing the WAP dance?
In my opinion, everyone currently running has a WAP, but we're not going to even go there.
It's more like a dry one, probably. Everyone running right now
has a DAP.
Yeah, a DAP.
Just flapping about. Anyway, what other fads can we think about that happened?
I don't know. It got me off topic with the political one. I had another one. I forget it now. I was going to write it down, but I was like, you know what? Your brain's good enough. It's not. It's not good enough. I didn't remember it.
So we're going to swap gears real fast. We're going to be talking about EA assholes. So EA Sports has been, like, super controversial lately for, like, the longest time because, like, they've been throwing out microtransactions like crazy in all their games. They're pumping out the same game over and over and over again.
Explain to people what the fuck you're talking about.
EA Sports is the sports version of I can't even speak English anymore. That's what happens when we talk about wet ass pussy. All right, so EA is a video game producer. They produce a ton of different games. EA Sports is a section of that company that specifically makes sports video games. We're talking football, we're talking basketball, we're talking baseball, and
all the major sports and some minor sports.
And we're talking about UFC, which is the one that pops up recently. EA, the company as a whole, has been targeted because people think that they money grab all the time. Like, they put in, like I was saying before, microtransactions in all their games now, and like it just... They've been doing like super sketchy.
So for those uneducated people on video games or people that actually have a life outside of video games, when you make a video game, you could basically have things you can buy. You're covering up the camera again. You have things that you can buy in there that you can only get by buying them, or you have to play the game a shitload. So it's basically like pay to play. You can either choose to take 20 hours to beat the game, or you can do it in 5 minutes by buying extra shit, which I think is so fucking stupid to begin with, because that's the point of the fucking video game, is to play it.
Exactly.
But anyway.
So the most recent thing was that EA came out with the newest rendition of UFC video game, and they do instant flashbacks. What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know what you're describing.
They do replays of the fight of the game you're playing, and right before you get to the replay, they threw up an ad. It was quick. It was super fast. But
how many seconds?
Only a couple of seconds. But hold on, there's multiple aspects to this. So they threw up an ad real quick, and then they showed the replay, and it was a real ad. It was an ad for The Boys, which is a show on Amazon Prime.
So you have to, when you watch the replay of your victory that you just got in the game,
you have to watch an ad.
So it's not enough that you bought the game for $60
video game.
They now have to be like, well, now you have to watch ads in the video game. It's bad enough that you have a loading screen, but putting in an additional loading screen that's with a fucking ad, this is getting to the Ready Player One level of bullshit.
Yes.
Where they're like, just how much ad space can we put on the screen before they have seizures?
And that's true, because EA's comment to this was, well, this feels more like real life because this is what they do.
I'm sure that's why you did it.
Oh, I'm sure that's why you did it. It wasn't because Amazon offered.
Did you put the same 3 commercials like you do in real life? The same 3 fucking commercials? Maybe if you did those correctly, you wouldn't need the ad space in the fucking game.
You want to make it feel realistic? Make a fake ad. Make it funny. Make it so people watch and they go, "Ha, that's Make it a satire." Anyway, so there was huge backlash to this, and multiple things came out of this. One, EA apologized, and they took it down.
Do you know why? Because they're fucking pussies who couldn't live up to their decision. They tried to sneak it in, but they forgot that kids that play video games don't give a fuck. They spend all their time on the computer, and they have 10 fake accounts that they can talk shit from.
Yep.
And they will.
Pretty much.
Bravo.
So multiple things came off of that. I was reading articles about this all day long because I hate my job. So I saw 2 different levels of responses. One was a guy basically saying, hey, this is good. A, EA finally listened to people. B, this was a stepping stone. He was like, I'm currently also writing a review for a basketball game that EA produced. And he's like, hate to tell you guys, but for the past 10 years, we've been getting 30-second commercials in our basketball game, and no one gives a shit. Because no one plays it, but no one gives a shit. So he was like, they were going to do this. It was a stepping stone. So you cut it out early. And then there was other people, I think it was Forbes specifically, I don't know who the author was, who basically said EA caved to all the crybabies who don't understand how things work.
No. You came into a fucking business where it's not really like a lot of other businesses, because your consumers are people
you're paid directly for it.
But the thing is that your consumers are people that buy your shit out of a complete love of that shit, not out of a necessity. And they expect a certain amount of, I own this, not I have to watch this now. It's I own this now. I bought this game. I want to love this game, especially if it's a long line of games and you start fucking with the story, or you start fucking with that game. It's like you're fucking with their childhood. They're not going to take it lightly. And here's the thing, too. There's people who will refuse to play a game that they've loved since childhood because of one bad game.
Yeah.
They will do that out of spite.
I'm there.
And they will spend the next 30 years of their life complaining about it on forums and making pages and pages of Discord back and forth about why it sucks.
Making
just because
that
they
get
have
them
free
on the
time
FBI
now.
Websites or lists.
Exactly. And those business people, where they might be right 9 out of 10 times with most other companies, they're not right, because guess what? EA apologized. They took it out. So who won? Who won this round?
Finally, the consumer. Finally. And this is different because you know what? Ads are made to sustain companies who have no other type of revenue. Yeah, you buy cable television, but if you go to TBS isn't making a dime off of your cable vision bill. They make money purely off of advertisements. There's a reason why when you go to HBO, you're not seeing ads. It's because you pay for HBO. directly. Every dollar that you pay for an HBO package goes to maybe not every dollar, but it goes to HBO. That's what funds them. Ads fund one thing.
I honestly think a lot of those companies, especially like television companies, to be fair, are basically double dipping and pretending they're not making a lot of money.
I don't know. I don't think that the numbers are there. There are a lot of different companies.
Cable's not cheap as you think it is.
That's true too. I haven't had cable since.
Like if you get hardline cable, it's like minimum like $80 to $120 a month.
I'd be curious about the numbers.
Streaming cable is like $65 for like the cheaper kind, but that's like the basic package. But either way, regardless, what happened here is that they thought that, hey, if we can get people to pay $5 or $25 for a little sack of gems and a fucking game they play on their phone while they're taking a shit at work that they'll never play at home because they got all different kinds of video games, but they'll spend $100 at work on this shitty little game. Why would they get mad about an ad? Because they're not getting anything for it. They are not profiting one bit. You can get the fucking people to pay you $100 for some dumb shit in a game that's not even real. Yeah. Some fucking cool color coding that goes over a gun that they can't even hold it, but they'll pay $100 for it. Yeah. But if you try to make them watch an ad, it's like taking away a toddler's blocks.
They're gonna throw a tantrum.
They're gonna throw a tantrum. And then guess what? You can't just give the block back and stop the crying because you already took the block. Yeah. The tantrum's already begun. Okay?
And we are mad.
And they're mad.
And you know what? This, like I said before, this isn't the first thing that EA has done. They're guilty.
We can't just blame EA.
No. We can't blame EA for all of it, but they have slowly become the epicenter.
They're one of the biggest companies that gets put in the fucking newspaper for epicenter.
What is the reverse of a martyr?
The reverse? The opposite of a martyr?
Yeah. Scapegoat?
No. Scapegoat is something...
They would be innocent if they were a scapegoat. Or innocent-ish.
Not the main person who did it.
But they're guilty, but they are the guiltiest. Because they're not just like... All right, a lot of like... Not mastermind, because they're not...
No.
So, they're the guiltiest because they're not just like an up-and-coming game company. You know what I mean? They're not trying out cell phone games for the first time, so they're throwing whatever at the wall to see what sticks. They're not new to this, blah, 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 blah. They're established, and they've been making quality video games for years.
But here's
all they have to do is keep trucking along, and they would still be making profits.
But this is the problem.
The numbers are coming before everything else, and that's the problem.
Well, this is the problem with video games, and this is one of the things why I think that they're fucking with you with the numbers. Look what they always do. They made Call of Duty, right?
You said duty.
Call of Duty. They were making Call of Duty, and they were making a different game every time.
Yes.
And then after somewhere around like Modern Warfare 2, all they were doing was making the same game over and over again, to the point where like there was like a 3 or 4 game gap where like half the cutscenes were the exact framework from the previous game. They just rendered different people on it.
Yeah.
And when you are charging someone $60 for something like that, you have to start thinking, well, if you already did all the work for the game, why are you still charging me $60? Why are you still charging me $60 for a game that you already made me buy that I paid $60 for? And I think what they're doing is they're running out of ideas, or they're running out of ideas to make more money, and they're not either okay with what they're doing or they're losing money, so they got to make it up somehow. So they're just shoving whatever, they're throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
And they're getting, to be honest with you, they're getting greedy.
I think one of the problems, and I want to sum this up with this real fast because I don't want this to go on for forever.
Yeah.
But I recently was talking to someone about a pot company that he was really excited about. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but I swear to God it has a tie-in. And I forget what the name of the company was, and it's going to bother me so bad. The company recently just hired a new CEO.
Canopy Growth?
No, not Canopy. It's a much smaller company.
Okay.
Much smaller. And they just hired a new CEO, and like right now the average age of the person working for the company is like 35, and the CEO is going to be like 60. And he was quoted as saying, "I don't know anything about cannabis, but I do know how to run a business." And so he is going to. And there's two ways I can look at that, and I can extrapolate into this scenario. One is you know how to run a business from a monetary point of view, which is fantastic. And it is good for the business. It's good for the shareholders. It's good for the employees, yada, 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 for the most part. Yada, yada, yada. But it isn't necessarily good for the consumer. And I think that's what happens to these large companies. You get people who are so excited. We'll take the pot out of it. You get people who are so excited about video games, people who are killing themselves to like make new advances and do this and do that and like be so creative and awesome. And then you get people in charge who all of a sudden say, whoa, 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 whoa. But we have to care about the benefit of the company. That's what matters. And I can't necessarily blame them because it does matter. But at the same time, and I'm extrapolating this. I could be wrong here. Maybe I'm not hitting it on the head. But they are not. What is best for the company is not necessarily best for the gamer. Is the moral of the story.
What's good for the goose isn't necessarily good for the gander.
Yeah. And I think that is actually what has held Nintendo so high up for all these years is because Japanese culture is very, 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 very different than American culture. So Nintendo has always thought about consumer first. They haven't always hit it on the head, but that is one of the reasons why we have so many extremely different a wireless controller is 100% thanks to them, Nintendo. They were the first ones to think, what can we do different? What can we do to make people enjoy it?
Things like that would have come along regardless because of all the wireless technology, but you can't take away that they're the first ones. I mean, if
that was like a staple thing to throw out there, but they had a lot of other
they're one of the Mount Rushmores of video games.
Yes.
Right? So I think you're definitely right. I think part of the problem, like you said, is they bring in these guys that are good at running businesses, but when you have something that isn't just about pushing a product out, like, the product is out. Does the product work? It's like, it's not just about how the product works. It's like the product has to work.
Is it good?
And people have to like it. So they need a balance of like, that guy needs to run the business aspect, but he's got to have the dudes who are working on the game, who know the game and who know everything, have basically a list of like, we cannot cut these aspects out. No matter the cost, we cannot lose these aspects. Yeah. You work a way around it. Do what you have to do. But we can't lose this. If we lose this, the game might as well not even make the game.
It's almost like they should have, and I know this will never be a thing. This is me being like theoretical Timmy, but they should have two CEOs. One is for the benefit of the company, and one is for the benefit of the top-notch product. And they'll probably be at odds constantly, but I think that would be for the best of everyone in the world.
What I also think is that there's two different kinds of champions. There's a champion that gets to the top and wants to continue being at the top and fighting the best, and then there's a champion that gets up there and they rest on their laurels. And I think that I haven't played the game in a while, but I believe that's the case with Madden. Madden was known as the best of the best. And what they did was they said, listen, everyone else, don't even fucking bother making a football game because it's not going to be as good as ours. And no one's going to buy it anyway because we're so good. And now nobody else makes a video game about football except for Madden. And now Madden's like, we don't even have to make a good game anymore.
Yeah.
Because we've killed all the competition.
You've killed it.
And nobody has the startup to even get close to us. So we can just basically keep putting out dog shit, and they have no choice. If they want to play a football game, they have to come to us.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
It is sad. Yeah. I mean, to be fair with that example, I'm sure they probably buy the rights from the NFL. So who wants to play a video game with no-name star or a football game with no-name stars?
Yes.
But it's still...
What do you mean?
So when they produce these types of video games, UFC is a good example. They can't just make a UFC video game. They have to pay the UFC to do that.
Oh, yes.
So, yes. And I'm sure it's a 100-page contract, and I'm sure there's exclusivity and all that other bullshit. So I'm sure that EA is probably the only one, EA produces Madden, by the way, who is the only one that has rights to the NFL. So if anyone else was to produce a football game, they can't use football teams or NFL teams or NFL players.
There is another.
I assume
There is another thing, though, if extending an olive branch to the people that complain.
Go.
I do notice, though, because I play another series made by a different company, and they made a couple of ones that were not as good, noticeably, because I've played them. There was a lot of complaints. But then if the company turns it around and they take the criticism to heart and they basically say, listen, we know it's only about the game. Let's make the game better. And they turn around and make the game better. The people will be like, oh, listen, it happens, bro. We'll buy this one. They're not like cunty about it.
You're right.
They respect the fact that they took their licks and they changed the game, and they're like, you know what? You did make that one shitty one, but now I'm gonna buy it, and I'm super happy that you fucking changed it.
There was one game, and I only know this for third-party reviews. I saw a bunch of it on Reddit. I'm going to forget the name of it, and it's gonna bother me. But it was a no-name developer. He made like a space game. It wasn't just one dude. It was
No Man's
him.
Sky. No Man's Sky?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. No Man's Sky. It had an amazing trailer, was hyped up for the longest time, finally came out, and people were like, there is nothing to do in this video game. It's cool. It's beautiful. There is nothing to do.
That's the point of it.
But it wasn't pushed out that way.
Yeah, I know.
And apparently he like promised other things that he didn't deliver on, and like the community was outraged. But if you go and look at the reviews now, it's changed. People are like, he worked on it. They worked on it. It's better. It's awesome. It's a good game.
I give that guy a lot of space and credit because that game is literally about infinite amount of planets you can visit with infinite amount of regenerating aliens, monsters, sky, weather. Everything is just randomly generated at an infinite level.
It doesn't even make sense to me.
So if you fuck that up the first time out, you get a pass.
Yeah, I can understand.
And if you fix it,
you get a double pass?
You get a double pass. And the double pass,
you get a double tap.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
That's it, bud.
I said we would be quick 10 minutes ago. Let us know what you think of EA Sports in the comments down below. Are we overreacting? Are we just kind of like jerking each other off here, like being like, oh, they're bad, man. Or are you on our side? Do you think that they're the scum of the earth? Do you even remember what Andy's topic was?
Nope.
If you do, what the fuck was it? In the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget that we are also available on podcast sites. If you're not already listening to one, you can find us on Anchor.fm or Apple Podcasts. What are the other podcasts? Spotify.
That's a good one. Keep going.
If you have a podcast app, we are available on it. Just look for Bro Down Pro. We'll catch you guys next time.
You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day.